Ladies and gentlemen, the following segment of the podcast is presented exclusively by the Heritage Foundation. For 52 years, Heritage has fought tirelessly for America's founding principles and advancing conservative public policies. Much more than a think tank, Heritage is a conservative policy powerhouse, fighting for the everyday American to advance common sense policies and dismantle the D.C. bureaucracy. Our founding fathers gave us an extraordinary system of government, and the Heritage Foundation is dedicated to defending the heritage and carrying on their legacy for future generations. So get involved by completing their national survey on President Trump's agenda by visiting heritage.org/Levin. That's heritage.org/Levin. Paid for by the Great Heritage Foundation.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Welcome, it is the Mark Levin Show. Ben Ferguson filling in for the great one. He's resting his voice. He's going to be back with you on Monday. I got to tell you, it is so much fun to watch all of the winning that is happening when it comes to getting rid of government waste. DOGE has now come out saying the Department of Labor has canceled $577 million in America Last grants, including funding for gender equity in the, quote, Mexican workplace. Don't blame me for this. I'm just giving you the numbers. So let me dial you through this latest massive cut. The U.S. Department of Labor canceling the $577 million of America Last contracts, including $10 million that was going for gender equity in the Mexican workplace. Quote unquote, the Department of Government Efficiency has announced. Great work today by USDOL and the Secretary. They're canceling the $577 million in America Last grants for $237 million in savings. Listing some examples of the wasteful grants that were canceled. One of the grants was worth that $10 million that was literally described as gender equity in the Mexican workplace. There was another $12.2 million that was for worker empowerment, not in America, but South America. And $6.25 million was for, quote, improving respect for workers' rights and agricultural supply chains, and not in this country, not America, but in Honduras, in Guatemala, and El Salvador. Now, the canceled grants were intended for other countries as well, including $3 million for safe and inclusive work environments, $3 million to enhance Social Security access and worker protections for internal migrant workers in Bangladesh. Why the hell would we be paying for that? $4.3 million for assisting foreign migrant workers in Malaysia, and $5 million for elevating women's participation in the workplace in West Africa. All of this coming from the Department of Government Efficiency, telling the story. Yes, you should be angry, obviously, by all of this that you're hearing right now. Now, this follows DOGE updating its savings leaderboard, which now touts $130 billion in estimated savings. DOGE's website explains that this is a combination of asset sales, contract and lease cancellations and renegotiations, fraud and improper payment deletion, grant cancellations, interest savings, programmatic changes, regulatory savings, and workplace reductions, which breaks down to a savings of $807.45 so far per taxpayer in this country. DOGE currently displays 9,289 grant terminations, which alone total $32 billion in savings for the American people. DOGE has continued, by the way, to uncover even more waste, fraud, and abuse in federal government. President Trump highlighting many of these findings during his speech before Congress earlier this month, where he talked about the $22 billion from HHS to provide free housing and cars for illegal aliens. I don't want my tax dollars going for that. Call me old-fashioned, by the way. Or $45 million for diversity, equity, and inclusion scholarships, not in America, but in Burma. $40 million to improve the social and economic inclusion of migrants. Yeah, sedentary migrants, I should say. Trump began adding, quote, nobody knows what's a sedentary migrant even is. How about the $8 million to promote LGBTQI plus in the Africa nations, which nobody's ever heard of? $60 million for indigenous people of Afro-Colombian empowerment in Central America. Yes, $60 million. And $8 million for making mice transgender, reminding Americans that this is real. And it continues to be a growing list that deals with waste, fraud, and abuse. What's also interesting is how Elon Musk has just been so focused on all of this and has made it clear that we are being transparent in what we are finding. The amount of money that Elon Musk is finding and the people around him are finding is even shocking, I think it's pretty clear to say, to Elon Musk. But can we also just go back to why it is that Democrats hate this so much? It's because they want to control every aspect of our lives. I also want to take you back to when Democrats were in favor of cutting waste and promoting efficiency. How do I know that? I only have to go back to November the 9th of 2011, when Barack Obama on the official White House website had the video underneath it where it said cutting waste and promoting efficiency with the date and the presidential seal. And what did President Barack Obama say back then? He had a Doge-style executive order to cut waste and promote efficiency, saying it was time to get our government under control. My question is, why did you not lose your minds then when Barack Obama was saying that we needed to do it? And why is it now that you're losing your minds as a guy by the name of Elon Musk does it with Donald Trump? I think we all know the answer to that, right? They would rather have Donald Trump fail than for America and our economy to succeed. Because it's not about what's best for the American people or the American taxpayer. It's about what's best for their power as socialists, as communists, as Marxists. I want to play for you what Barack Obama said back in 2011. Now, no one said that this was insane in the Democratic Party. No one was out there losing their minds the way they are now with Elon Musk. Instead, they were all in favor of it because it was coming from a black Democrat by the name of Barack Obama.
One of the commitments that I made to the American people was that we would do a better job here in Washington in rooting out wasteful spending. At a time when families have had to cut back, have had to make some tough decisions about getting rid of things that they don't need in order to make the investments that they do. We thought that it was entirely appropriate for our governments and our agencies to try to root out waste, large and small, in a systematic way. Obviously, this is even more important given the deficits that we've inherited and that have grown as a consequence of this recession. This makes these efforts even more imperative. Now, this does mean making some tough choices. It means cutting some programs that I think are worthy, but we may not be able to afford right now. We don't need to wait for Congress in order to do something about wasteful spending that's out there. Cutting waste, making government more efficient is something that leaders in both parties have worked on, from Senator Tom Coburn, Republican, to Democrat Claire McCaskill. We haven't seen as much action out of Congress as we'd like, and that's why we launched on our own initiative the campaign to cut waste. Not just to cut spending, but to make government work better for the American people. For example, we've identified thousands of government buildings that we don't need. Some of them sat empty 4 years. So we're getting rid of those properties, and that's going to save the American people billions of dollars. Roger Rhodes works at the Department of Commerce. Raise your hand, Roger. There's Roger. He found a way to save the department almost $2 million a year on its cell phone bills. And I'm sure that there are probably some consumers out there that would like to talk to them and find out what they could save on their cell phone bills. Celeste Steele is here. Celeste, raise your hand. Celeste works at the Department of Homeland Security, and she's helping to save taxpayers tens of millions of dollars by changing the way the department buys goods and services.
By the way, let's just pause there. This is no different than what Barack Obama, or I should say Donald Trump is doing, or Elon Musk is doing. In fact, he's got his team, in essence, of Doge behind him at the time. And, you know, if you had to, Elon Musk tweeted this out, I think it was like 3 or 4 hours ago. He said, take a tequila shot every time Obama says government efficiency. Right? Like, you listen to him and he's like obsessed with it back in 2011. Now he abandoned it, right? Democrats went to him and said, no, you can't do this, dude. This is our gravy train, man. Like, you can't cut all of our programs. Like, we got to have this stuff because we got to buy voters. And and clearly he, you know, wussed out, right? He didn't man up and actually do it. But if you listen to Obama and you took a tequila shot every time Obama said government efficiency, you'd be hammered in the hospital begging for your life.
We've also tasked Vice President Biden to work with the secretaries of all our agencies to identify some systemic areas of potential improvement: travel, transportation, IT services.
By the way, I love this Barack Obama. Like, if Barack Obama would have done this, if Joe Biden would have done what they said here and not been corrupt as hell and weaponizing the government against the American people and weaponizing the IRS against the Tea Party patriots, like, I could have gotten along with this guy. But again, I go back to the core point here. If you want to know why Democrats are going insane over Elon Musk and Doge and Donald Trump, it's because they're losing their gravy train. They had no problem with Barack Obama saying it. They have no problem with any other Democrat saying the same thing, as long as it was their party that was in charge. I'll give you another example of this. Brett Baer sat down at the White House with some of the Doge workers and Elon Musk. And I want you to hear one of their stories. Listen carefully.
And it is alarming how the financial operations and financial management is set up today. There is actually really only one bank account that's used to disperse all monies that go out of the federal government.
Time out. One bank account.
It's a big one.
It's a big one.
It's a big one.
It's a big one. A couple weeks ago, it had $800 billion in it, but it's the Treasury General account. So when you hear, you know, some of my colleagues here, what they're talking about in terms of the fraud, you have to ask, well, why is this allowed to happen at a financial level? Well, it's actually quite simple but alarming. The Treasury, up until now, and thanks to President Trump, we're fixing this. In fact, there was an executive order that he just signed the other day, which is protecting America's bank account, because it really is the taxpayers' money. You know, one, we're changing the culture. The culture is been not a lot of caring and not a lot of commitment to doing what's right relative to financial operations. There's a $500 billion of fraud every year. There's hundreds of billions of dollars of improper payments, and we can't pass an audit. The consolidated financial report is produced by Treasury, and we cannot pass it on. We have material weaknesses. What that means is that if I was a public company CFO, I would effectively be removed. I couldn't file financial statements. I couldn't issue securities, which of course we depend on. Can't pass an audit.
Right. The federal government cannot pass an audit. It's impossible. In fact,
let's just stop there. Elon Musk, and I'm going to play the part of this in a second, but what Elon Musk said, the United States government couldn't pass an audit. Do you want to know why? Because they set this up deliberately to make sure they never had to deal with an audit, so that they could then encourage the waste, fraud, and abuse to their cronies and political allies, whether it's PBS or NPR or transitioning mice to be training mice. This is, or Sesame Street in Iraq or wherever the hell we did that. This is the problem. 1-877-381-3811. I want to get your phone calls in here as well. 1-877-381-3811. Ben Ferguson filling in for the great one. If you can't get through, follow me on X, Ben Ferguson Show on X. And if you're on Instagram, you can send your messages there. Follow me. I'll put all these clips up on social media. On Instagram, it is at Ben Ferguson Podcast. There, grab me there. Facebook, Ben Ferguson. There, you can find it easily. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Listen, folks, if you're like me, you're passionate about protecting our American values. That's why I trust the Heritage Foundation. They're dedicated to promoting policies based on free enterprise, limited government, and traditional American values. The Heritage Foundation does more than just produce policy recommendations. They're mobilizing conservatives across the country. And right now, they need you to take action by completing their national survey on President Trump's agenda. Your responses to this survey will help guide Heritage leadership as they work closely with folks in Washington to promote your values, secure America's borders, and restore our freedoms. Here's what I want you to do. Visit heritage.org/Levin, heritage.org/LEVIN to complete your survey. It's very, very important. My friends at Heritage need you to act now to help them maximize the impact on President Trump's first 100 days. Heritage is committed to preserving our Founding Fathers' principles and ensuring that America remains a beacon of freedom and opportunity. So I know you won't sit on the sidelines. You'll get involved, please, today, and make your voice heard. Visit heritage.org/Levin. That's heritage.org/LEVIN. Please complete your survey today. That's heritage.org/LEVIN, paid for by the Great Heritage Foundation.
Welcome back. It is the Mark Levin Show. Ben Ferguson filling in for the great one. He'll be back with you on Mondays. He's resting his voice today, and it's so nice to have you with us. If you just joined us, we're talking about government waste, fraud, and abuse. And why is it the Democrats are so hell-bent on going after Elon Musk, trying to destroy him? Now, and we're going to deal with the domestic terrorism of Tesla in a little bit. But I want to go back to a point I was making a second ago, and that is this. There is a group of people in this country called Democrats, and I'm talking about their leadership, that aren't really Democrats. They are Marxists, they're socialists, they're communists. It's all three. They're anarchists, throw them in there. They may be a mixture of everything, like just a hot bag of you-know-what. And they're masquerading as Democrats because they don't believe that the American people are fully ready for them to just say, I'm a socialist or I'm a communist. Like now, in some parts of the country, there have been declared socialists and communists that have actually won elections. So they believe they're coming around to this. The American people, like they believe there's enough of these socialist, Marxists, and communists that are being created in our public school system, in our college institutions, that are being indoctrinated, that at some point they'll say, like, yeah, we're not Democrats anymore, but they got to lie to you. But they have no problem with their own party saying what was said by Barack Obama. They didn't burn down people's belongings because he said it when he said it. They didn't torch people. They didn't become anarchists. They didn't go crazy. I'll give you another example of just the corruption here. And I would play you the audio clip, but it's actually not in English. But Zelensky just came out, and this is a perfect example of the left. And he says Ukraine, quote, will not recognize all of the previous U.S. military aid as debt. Quote, unquote, we're not recognizing debts. He went on to say this, and this is from earlier today. Now, this is the same guy that's begging us for more money. Trump's like, I don't know about that. And now the guy's like, well, if you think we're going to do a deal to take on that debt when you gave us all that money with that last administration, you're wrong. That ain't happening. On the issue of debts, Zelensky said, if the issue is raised, we are not recognizing debts, as I said. I mean, the U.S. aid is in the past, at least again. If there are any prospects, new aid packages, the United States can probably set some conditions, realizing that this team will not do anything for free. They say it officially. Right? I love how he's like acting like that's a bad thing. No, this administration is not going to give you a bunch of money. And by the way, Zelensky's own words. We don't know where half of the money is gone. By the way, I know exactly where it's gone. It's gone to the Ukrainian oligarchs around Zelensky, who are all hanging out in five-star hotels in Warsaw. That's where the damn money's going. But when he sits here, he's like, well, we're not going to recognize it. Fine. Then shut off the spout. You don't want any more aid from us with conditions? No problem. Like, please save me the money. I'm more than happy for that to happen. And I think the majority of the American people would agree with me. Ben Ferguson filling in for the great one. By the way, grab my podcast during the break, the Ben Ferguson podcast as well. We'll be right back.
Folks, I need to talk to you about something crucial to the future of America. Our friends at the Heritage Foundation are on the front lines fighting for our conservative values. Heritage is dedicated to promoting policies that will help bolster our economy, protect our borders, and uphold the rule of law. They're working tirelessly to defend our Constitution and the principles that make America exceptional. To help accomplish this, they need you to complete their national survey on President Trump's agenda today. So you can participate in this survey by going to heritage.org/Levin. That's heritage.org/Levin. Your responses are crucial to this survey, and they'll provide Heritage leadership with crucial feedback as they work closely with the folks in Washington to promote your values, secure America's borders, and restore our freedoms. By completing this very important survey today, you're standing up for the values that have made this country great. And my friends at Heritage need you to act now to maximize their impact on President Trump's first 100 days. So please don't wait. Our future depends on you. Together, we can make a difference, and future generations inherit a nation that is free, prosperous, and strong. So please, right now, visit heritage.org/Levin, heritage.org/Levin, complete your survey, and join the fight for America's future. That's heritage.org/Levin, paid for by the Great Heritage Foundation.
All right, welcome back. It is the Mark Levin Show. Ben Ferguson filling in for the great one today. It is so nice to have you with us, and we've got a lot to chat about, including government waste, fraud, and abuse. If you just joined us, we are chatting about many in the government who are just sick and tired of the corruption, and many of them are coming forward and actually helping DOJ, from what I've been told from insiders, saying, hey, you want some really bad stuff? Like, you want to help us? Well, here's something you need to know about where there is massive government waste, fraud, and abuse. This is the best part about what is happening right now in our government. Another example of this, HHS Secretary Kennedy is now planning to cut 10,000 jobs. The Health and Human Services Secretary is expected to announce drastic changes to his department, including cutting 10,000 full-time employees and closing regional offices, according to documents outlining the plan. The cuts in the workforce are in addition to roughly 10,000 employees who chose to leave their jobs through voluntary separation plans after Donald Trump took office, this being well reported by the Wall Street Journal. The cuts include Food and Drug Administration, 3,500 full-time employees, or 19% of the workforce. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, 2,400 employees, or about 18% of their workforce. National Institute of Health, 1,200 employees, or about 6% of their workforce. The Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, 300 employees, or 4% of their workforce. The plan would shrink the department to about 62,000 by removing 1/4 of its workforce and eliminating 5 of HHS's 10 regional offices, according to the documents, which add that essential health services will not be affected. The employees being let go are spread among departments nationwide that are tasked with the approvals of new drugs, providing insurance for the nation's poorest people, responding to disease outbreaks, and more. Those are the different issues that we're talking about here. The CDC, meanwhile, will return to its core mission of preparing for and responding to epidemics, according to documents. Its cuts are not to come from divisions that focus on infectious diseases, an HHS official has confirmed. The reorganization further calls to, quote, centralize HHS communications, information technology, procurement, human resources, and policy planning efforts that are now distributed through the department's divisions and some branches. The secretary is also planning to create a new subdivision, the Administration for a Healthy America, combining HHS offices, addressing toxic substances, occupational safety, addiction, and more into one central office. It will focus on programs addressing chronic disease prevention and health resources for low-income Americans. Kennedy, a frequent critic of the HHS in the past, ran for president, as you know, last year on a platform of addressing chronic disease in America. After he endorsed Trump in August, the two said they were going to make America, quote unquote, healthy again. The Trump administration, through efforts by the Department of Government Efficiency, led by Elon Musk, has cut thousands of federal government employees. Several lawsuits, by the way, have been filed on challenging the people that are crying about, I should keep my job. They're not flinching, by the way. The cuts are not to affect the FDA's inspectors or food reviewers. Why am I telling you all this? Because you know what they're going to do. The left is going to tell you that you're going to get sick and die, and they're putting your health at risk by making these cuts. So that's why I want you to understand where the cuts are and where they're not. So again, this list I'm giving you right now is extremely important. I hope you'll share it with everyone you know, because you know the left's going to say, oh, well, we're not going to have any food inspectors out there. You're going to die of some terrible disease. Again, the facts, the cuts are not affecting the FDA's inspectors or food reviewers. And several FDA probationary workers who had been cut last month were rehired a week later. The plans also call for several offices to shift. They say the Administration for Strategic Preparedness and Response, which oversees the Strategic National Stockpile and Pandemic Preparedness Planning, is to be moved under the CDC rather than operating as it does now as a separate division. Kennedy's administration for a healthy America is to include the Health Resources and Services Administration as well, the Office of the Assistant Secretary for Health, the Substance Abuse, and the Mental Health Services Administration, along with two divisions under the CDC, the Agency for Toxic Substances and Disease Registry, and the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health. Now, why does that matter? This reminds me of our government before 9/11. Before 9/11, the CIA wasn't really talking with the FBI, and the FBI wasn't really talking with others. They were all kind of separate, doing their own thing. And what we found out was some of the things that we missed before 9/11 were actually because there was too many turf wars. Like, that's not your lane, that's my lane, that's our jurisdiction, not yours. And so what it seems like you're hearing from Kennedy here is he's like, hey, we're going to get rid of this bureaucracy and all this crap, and we're going to put the groups together that need to be together, and we're not going to sit here and play turf wars when we're dealing with America's health. What a novel idea. Other offices relating to adjudicating or investigating disputes related to Medicare or other areas of HHS are going to be moved to be under a new Assistant Secretary of Enforcement. Again, consolidation, saving you money. The Agency for Healthcare Research and Quality, they say, will merge with the Assistant Secretary for Planning and Evaluations to form a new Office of Strategery. That's my favorite fake George Bush word there. Strategy, you know what I'm saying. And programs for older adults, currently under the Administration for Community Living. Again, this is another example of them saying, why are we wasting all this money? Why are we having all of these different things under all these different agencies? And why can't they all work together and at the same time save Americans money? This is what it's all about. This is exactly why there are so many people right now that are so happy, and there's so many liberals that are so angry, because they love government waste, because it empowers them. They love that the government traditionally, okay, I'm going to say it carefully, is a massive hiring force for like-minded radicals, liberals that have entrenched themselves in a way that I don't think any of us could have seen coming, to totally dictate to America a government bureaucracy filled with waste, fraud, and abuse, hooking each other's friends up. This is exactly what the American people voted for. It's exactly what the American people said that they wanted. Now, by the way, Chuck Schumer, he's like completely unhinged right now. Chuck Schumer had a press conference with other Democrats, and they lost it. Schumer really kind of went crazy. And what he said in his comments was that Donald Trump and Elon Musk are, quote, eroding the American dream with Doge.
Trump and Musk are just eroding the American dream. They're rigging the system for billionaires while stealing from the elderly, from the disabled, to cut taxes for their billionaire club.
I got to say, I love that. I really do. I love what he is saying there, because it's so absurd that I think the majority of Americans know just how ridiculous it is. They had this conference and they sit there and they're like, Elon Musk is eroding the American dream. How? By giving Americans more of their money back? By making more Americans can succeed because they may not have to pay as much in taxes in the future after we get rid of $1 trillion in government waste, fraud, and abuse? Like, I'm dead serious. Tell me how they're, and then they say, oh, and this is what they always go back to. They always go back to this, okay? Like they always go back to this. They say over and over and over again. Anytime they want to derail a Republican idea, they say, oh, well, you know what they're going to do? They're going to take away your Social Security. They're going to take away your safety net. They're going to take away everything that you have. They're going to ruin your life, these evil, and they're going to give it to the rich, right? And then that gets the many seniors all up in arms. But I don't think right now it's working anymore. I actually believe they've said it for so long that the sky is falling, Chicken Little, yada, yada, yada. That it's done. Like, I think people are just like, no, no, we don't believe you. We've heard you say this too many times. We've heard you say it too many times, and we don't believe you. We've heard you say it so much that we think you are just a liar, that you're lying to us constantly about this. So we actually don't believe you. We don't believe what you're saying, and we're not listening to it because we think you're full of crap. And that's the best part of all, is that the American people now they've overplayed their hand. And the American people understand it. Like, I really do believe this. I believe that the American people truly, truly understand it. And they're watching it and they're witnessing it and they're like, no, like, we don't believe you. You can say this all you want, but we don't believe you. I want to get your phone calls in here. 1-877-381-3811. 1-877-381-3811. Ben Ferguson filling in for the great one. Follow me on X. You can send me all your comments, by the way, on X, at Ben Ferguson Show. If you're on Instagram, follow me during the break, at Ben Ferguson Podcast. And make sure you grab my podcast, the Ben Ferguson Podcast, as well. And listen every day. I'd love to keep up with you there. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Listen, folks, if you're like me, you're passionate about protecting our American values. That's why I trust the Heritage Foundation. They're dedicated to promoting policies based on free enterprise, limited government, and traditional American values. The Heritage Foundation does more than just produce policy recommendations. They're mobilizing conservatives across the country. And right now, they need you to take action by completing their national survey on President Trump's agenda. Your responses to this survey will help guide Heritage leadership as they work closely with folks in Washington to promote your values, secure America's borders, and restore our freedoms. Here's what I want you to do. Visit heritage.org/Levin, heritage.org/Levin to complete your survey. It's very, very important. My friends at Heritage need you to act now to help them maximize the impact on President Trump's first 100 days. Heritage is committed to preserving our founding fathers' principles and ensuring that America remains a beacon of freedom and opportunity. So I know you won't sit on the sidelines. You'll get involved, please, today, and make your voice heard. Visit heritage.org/Levin. That's heritage.org/Levin. Please complete your survey today. That's heritage.org/Levin, paid for by the Great Heritage Foundation.
All right, so I just posted something during the break. I try to post something good for you guys. And this one, I really actually hope you guys will help go viral. It is just a classic example of, like, the left and how I believe it is a mental disease, what these people believe. It says leftists, that's vandalism, and it's car burnout marks over their gay pride sidewalks. And then below it says also leftists, and it's literally burning Teslas to the ground. And they're like, that's protesting. Yeah. If you guys want to just hack off a lefty today, just go retweet it real quick at Ben Ferguson Show. You can find it there. I just put that picture up. It's amazing because it's so accurate, right? Like they're the ones who are like, oh, it's a hate crime if you do a burnout. Remember, they were like hunting down. They were actually hunting down people that did burnouts over their gay pride sidewalks and crosswalks, and they were like, put them in jail. They were wanting it to be a hate crime. But you torch Tesla dealerships and actually plant bombs at Tesla dealerships. Like, nope, totally good. And why? Because Elon Musk is taking away their power. He's taking away their power by stopping our funding going to the most ridiculous things in the world. Elon Musk, in his interview that he did with Brett Baer, Brett, by the way, did one hell of a job with this interview. I had the privilege of interviewing Elon Musk, the week before this. And Elon's one of these guys, like after meeting him, sitting down with him, talking with him, and interviewing him with Senator Cruz. We do this for the podcast we do, Verdict with Ted Cruz. We did a 2-part sit down with Elon. And afterwards, I'm like, dude, I want to work for you. I want to help you do this. I want to be your biggest advocate, because what you understand is the left is trying to bankrupt him. They're trying to destroy his stock. They're trying to destroy his life's work. They're doing everything they can to hurt this man. He's genuinely concerned that he's going to be killed before his work with Doge is finished. And yet here he is still sitting here with all these other brilliant minds around him trying to stop our government from wasting our tax dollars. Something that Barack Obama advocated for in 2011, which I played for you earlier. And nobody was torching anything when Barack Obama said it. So what changed? One person, a Democrat. It was okay when they said it, and they knew they weren't actually going to do it. But a Republican says it and is actually doing it. And they're like, off with their heads.
In order to pass an audit, you need the information necessary to pass an audit. You need to have the payment codes, you need to have the payment explanation, and you need to have a person you can contact to understand why that payment was made. None of those things were mandatory until just recently, just a few weeks ago. In fact, maybe last week?
Yeah, we're serving 580 plus agencies. And up until very recently, effectively they could say make the payment and Treasury just sent it out as fast as possible. No verification. And so what we're doing is what any household would do. But imagine you're a household, you have a bank account, everyone has an ATM card connected to that account, everyone has a checkbook connected to that account. It's not just your children, it's not just your parents, it's your in-laws, it's your extended family, and they all can go to the account and disperse funds. No questions asked, no justification, no verification.
It's insane. This goes back to the magic that money computers. This was something that Elon said in our interviews when we were sitting down and talking to him. And he was talking about these computers. I want to play this for you. This is from like a couple weeks ago. Listen.
Magic money computers at the Treasury. So tell us about it, because I never heard of that until you brought that up.
Okay, so you may think that that the government computers all talk to each other. They synchronize. They add up what funds are going somewhere, and it's it's coherent. There's and that the numbers, for example, that you're presented as a senator, are actually the real numbers.
One would think.
No, they're not.
Yeah.
Okay. They're not totally wrong, but they're probably off by 5% or 10% in some cases. So I call a magic money computer any computer which can just make money out of thin air. That's magic money.
So how does that work?
It just issues payments.
And you said there's something like 11 of these computers at Treasury that are sending out trillions in payments?
They're mostly at Treasury. Some are, but there's some at HHS, there's one or two at State, there's some at DOD. I think we found now 14 magic money computers.
14, okay.
They just send money out of nothing.
Out of nothing. Magic money computers, they just send money out of nothing. That is how our government has been operating. That's why they call it magic money computers. And there's 14 of these magic computers at the federal government. They just send money out of nothing. And now you understand why Democrats want this guy dead. For this exact reason right here. By the way, that clip, I just put it up on X, so share it. Make it a liberal angry. You can follow me at Ben Ferguson Show on X. Also, if you want to see that great picture of the Dems of what they say is anarchy compared to protests, it's up there as well. We'll be right back.
This segment of the podcast is exclusively sponsored by Pure Talk. Pure Talk offers great coverage and can save your family money on your wireless bill every single month. Go to puretalk.com to find the plan that's right for you. Thank you again for listening, and thank you so much for this sponsorship, Pure Talk.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hour 2, Mark Levin Show. Ben Ferguson filling in for the great one. He's resting his voice today. He'll be back with you on Monday. It is great to have you with us. How much do you love saving money as a taxpayer when it comes to waste, fraud, and abuse? Well, majority of Americans in polls are showing they're loving what Elon Musk is doing. Even as unhinged drivers are, well, going crazy on the roadways, even attacking Tesla drivers. There is a new video that is out from Donald Trump, and it is a video of an unhinged driver whipping out a gun on a Cybertruck during a road rage incident. Yes, that actually happened. These people are totally insane. Now, why? It is because, very clearly, they hate the fact that this man is changing the government and taking away the waste, the fraud, and the abuse that is going to leftist and radical organizations. Elon Musk and Doge also revealed something about Social Security and fraud that should make every American angry. I'm all in favor of people getting Social Security that deserve it, those that are actually entitled to it, but not those that are not. And how bad is the fraud within Social Security? Listen to this.
We learned 40% of the phone calls that they get are from fraudsters.
40%?
That's right. Almost half.
Yes, and they steal people's Social Security is what happens. Is they call in, they say they claim to be a retiree, then they convince the Social Security person on the phone to change where the money's flowing. It actually goes to some fraudster. This is happening all day, every day. And then somebody doesn't receive their Social Security. It's because of all the fraud loopholes in the Social Security system.
How do you reassure people that what you all are doing is not going to affect their benefits?
No, in fact, what we're doing will help their benefits. Legitimate people, as a result of the work of Doge, will receive more Social Security, not less. I want to emphasize that. As a result of the work of Doge, legitimate recipients of Social Security will receive more money, not less money.
All right.
I want to emphasize that point and let the record show that I said this, and it will be proven out to be true. Let's check back on this in the future.
So, Washington Post, the Social Security Administration website crashed 4 times in 10 days this month because the servers were overloaded.
You go back to just the basics. 40% of all the calls to Social Security are fraudsters. Fraudsters call in, claim to be the retiree, and then they convince the operator to change where the money is flowing. That seems like a problem that you should probably fix and maybe adjust. Now, what does the left say? Oh, the left's like, no, you don't understand. You can't do anything or stop anything that deals with correcting these problems because we love the fraud. We love the waste. I mean, Doge, the Department of Labor, has just canceled $577 million in America Last grants, including for gender equity in the, quote, Mexican workplace. I think we can all agree, if you're sane, that that is a good thing. I played for you earlier Barack Obama saying the word government efficiency over and over again back in 2011, saying we need to get our federal debt under control. Like, that is what he was saying back then. No Democrats were burning up things back then because he said it. Right? Like, no one was burning the place down. No one was. You go to, I'll give you another example here. You look at the mission of HHS, making sure that we have the best biomedical research in the world. This is going to help save lives in America. This is something that Doge actually talked about. So you don't think that, and the staffer, Brad Smith, discussed Doge's efforts to make sure that their mission is actually carried out. Listen.
Well, I'd say there's a couple of things we're really committed to in our work at HHS. Number one, making sure we continue to have the best biomedical research in the world. And number two, making sure, which President Trump has said over and over again, that we 100% protect Medicare and Medicaid. But there's a lot of opportunity. So if I take NIH as an example, today, if you're an NIH researcher and you get a $100 grant at your university, today you get to spend 60 of that and your university spends 40 of that. The policy that we're proposing to make is that you get to spend 85 of that and your university spends 15. So that's more money going directly to the scientists who are discovering new cures. Another example at NIH is today they have 27 different centers. They got created over time by Congress, and they're typically by disease state or body system. There's 700 different IT systems today at NIH.
700 different IT systems.
IT software systems. They can't speak to each other.
So they don't talk to one another.
They have 27 different CIOs. And so when you think about making great medical discoveries, you have to connect the data.
Time out. You said 27 different chief information officers?
Correct.
And most of them are non-technical.
So there's a lot there.
There's a lot of opportunity. It will make science better, not worse.
27 people with the same title. That's absurd. I think we can all agree that doesn't serve the American people well. That doesn't fix any of the problems. Right? That is a disaster. I think we all can agree that is a disaster. By the way, you look at the interior, for example. Here's what they're working on tirelessly over there to save you money.
You're reviewing contracts before they're approved for funding. What are you finding?
Well, Elon and Steve kind of stole my thunder a little bit, but I actually found that customer service survey contract. I actually have an example of one right here. I could have done this in high school. And
is that right?
I found it.
Is that bad?
I found it on the weekends because under the Biden administration, there was no departmental oversight within the Department of Interior whatsoever. None. We are now reviewing every single contract, every single grant, and when things come to my attention that don't make sense, I'm bringing them to Secretary Burgum, and he's been fantastic. He's a businessman. He's very supportive of Doge. It's been wonderful.
I mean, this is just simple insanity. The team is working every day, including weekends, to save taxpayer dollars and help balance the federal budget so we can pay down the national debt. They've individually reviewed 36,000 plus interior grants and contracts and have identified massive amounts of waste, fraud, and abuse already. He said this is just common sense effort of government efficiency, and that's what we're trying to do here. We're not trying to ruin anybody's life. We're not trying to destroy anybody's life. We're not trying to do anything but give you sensible accountability. You go back to this, and this should make you enraged. Let's talk about the over $300 million of Small Business Administration government loans you paid for. And where were they going? Elon Musk exposed that as well.
For example, there were over $300 million of Small Business Administration loans that has been given out to people under the age of 11.
Well, actually, to add to it, it's $300 million under the age of 11 and over $300 million to over the age of 120.
Definitely
small business loans.
Correct.
Yes. The oldest American is 114. So it's safe to say if their age is 115 or above, they're fake. Or they should be in the Guinness Book of World Records. And we should not be giving out loans to babies. So The youngest recipient of a Small Business Administration loan is a 9-month-old, which is a very, very precocious baby we're talking about here. So obviously it was just fraudulent. And they do terrible things. They actually will see that a kid's been born. They will steal that kid's social security number and then take out a loan and leave that kid with a bad credit rating. There was literally a baby. The terrible things are being done is what we're saying. If, for example, there were
terrible things are being done is what we're saying. You have a recipient of the SBA loan that is a 9-month-old, obviously, which is fraudulent. Like, how the hell did you even think to send out a loan to a 9-month-old? I can tell you exactly how this stuff happens. It's called bribery. The Democratic Party, through SBA, decided to give out loans to people they knew didn't deserve them, and the reason why was actually very clear. Because they wanted to buy their votes. That's it. Like, that's the whole ball game here. They wanted to say, here's money from us. We know you don't deserve this money, but this is what we are doing. We're giving you this money, right? We're giving you this money. I rarely, by the way, I agree with Kevin McCarthy. But what Kevin McCarthy said on Fox News Channel, like, I'm just not a Kevin McCarthy guy, right? I think he's kind of a rhino. I'm not a fan, but I'll give credit where credit's due. Kevin McCarthy actually said it right when it came to the issue of Doge. And here's what he said.
Every hardworking taxpayer sit back and say, I have somebody working for me. If you wanted to go out and get this work done, we would pay billions of dollars. Here's the brightest minds, not just in America, in the world, volunteering, sacrificing, and he's getting attacked. I mean, terrorist attacks against his companies because he's fighting for the individual. That's what's so amazing to me. The more he does.
Did you hear that Las Vegas Tesla terrorist that they nabbed the federal charges? He's like a member of the Communist Party. They're not like every left-wing, progressive, out-of-control group he's a member of.
Yeah.
Of course.
Attacking electric cars.
Yeah.
It makes no sense.
So these individuals who volunteered their time are burrowing in, and what they're really finding out, Kevin, is that these government systems, which even back in the 80s I saw were completely outdated, are not only outdated, they're kind of dangerous in a way because they make us vulnerable.
These are systems when the computer first started. We're modernizing it so you can catch, so you have accountability in government. Everything everybody says they want in their government, they're providing it. And it's going to save tremendous amount of money, one, for the taxpayer. It's going to provide greater service to the constituents. This is what people crave to be able to make happen.
By the way, I agree with him. I just have to point out the obvious. Where was this Kevin McCarthy when he was the Speaker of the House? Why wasn't he going after waste, fraud, and abuse when he was one of the guys that was advocating basically internally for massive government expenditures, increases in spending? Now, what he said here, I can agree with. I wish this was the guy that would have been in charge of the Republican Party a long time ago. Like, these are all of the major issues now that we're talking about that the American people are focused on, that the American people want. And it's about saving you money. Ben Ferguson filling in for the great one, Mark Levin. Don't forget all of these clips. I'll put them up on social media. You can follow me on X at Ben Ferguson Show. If you're on Instagram, at Ben Ferguson Podcast. And if you haven't checked out my new podcast, it's called the 47 Morning Update. It is a 10-minute podcast of the 3 biggest stories coming out of the White House every day. Grab it. It has been a really fun success since the day he was inaugurated. So during the break, subscribe to that. It's free. The 47 Morning Update with Ben Ferguson. Grab it as well. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
This country was founded on freedom. Freedom from a country that forced us to buy overpriced tea, then try blockading us when we dumped their tea into the ocean. How'd that work out? Well, it's time to throw your overpriced big wireless contract overboard, too. You don't need to pay $100 a month per person just to get a free phone. Pure Talk, my cell phone company, says no to inflated prices and gimmicks. With a qualifying plan of just $45 a month, you can choose a free iPhone 14 or a free Samsung Galaxy with qualifying plans. And yes, this is for a premium service. Unlimited talk, text, 25 gigs of data, and mobile hotspot at a fraction of the price of the big three. All on America's most dependable 5G network. Get your free iPhone 14 or Samsung Galaxy with qualifying plans by visiting puretalk.com/Levin today. Switching is easy. Again, that's puretalk.com/LEVIN to claim your free iPhone or Galaxy with a qualifying purchase from Pure Talk. America's wireless company, my wireless company.
Welcome back. It is the Mark Levin Show. Ben Ferguson filling in for the great one. You're going to love this. The CIA director, John Radcliffe, has invited Elon Musk to the CIA this coming Monday to discuss government efficiency at DOGE, specifically at the agency. Yes, even the CIA is going to be getting a haircut. You got to love that. Saving us money. Let's talk about the lawfare real quick. What has been the Democrats' move to try to stop all this? It has been lawfare. You have a lot of activist judges that are out there doing everything they can to obstruct the president's agenda, not respecting the president or the will of the people who voted him in overwhelmingly, winning the popular vote as well in every swing state in America. And that's exactly what has happened with these judges. Now, unfortunately, there is a consistent theme in almost all of this. Follow the money. It's almost every single time the same thing. Follow the money. Nearly every activist federal judge obstructing the president's agenda, DOGE says, has one thing in common. What is it?
Are you surprised at some of the legal efforts and some of the judges that have weighed in? There's about 8 or 10 now of these cases that are at least temporary holds. They're being challenged by the DOJ. Right. Are you surprised by that pushback?
Well, it's the D.C. Circuit is notorious for having a very far-left bias. And when you look at the people close to some of these judges, where are they working? Are they working at these NGOs? Oh, they're the ones getting this money. Does that seem like a system that lacks corruption? It sounds like corruption to me.
I mean, you listen to Elon Musk say that, and he's just so matter-of-fact about it. You want to know why these activist federal judges are obstructing the president's agenda? Because they got a spouse or child that's drawing a major paycheck from a Democrat-aligned non-governmental agency, an NGO, a non-governmental office. And so what Donald Trump has done is his policies have directly undercut these NGOs, creating a glaring conflict of interest. Now, there is some good news finally on this. The appeals court has just cleared the way for Trump to fire leaders of the independent federal agencies. The ruling is a major victory, quote unquote, for Trump's effort to control regulatory bodies that Congress intended to operate with some independence. Politico reporting at this hour that a federal appeals court has cleared the way for the president to fire members of the executive branch boards that oversee federal employee grievances and labor disputes across the nation. The ruling today is a victory for Trump's efforts to exert control over the regulatory agencies that, in my opinion, are clearly been out of control for far too long. That Congress intended to operate with some degree of independence from the president. Federal laws limit the president's ability to remove the board members who oversee those agencies. But the Trump administration has argued those limits are, quote, unconstitutional. I'm going to put it this way. Hell yes, they are. And now we have a court system that's agreeing. 1-877-381-3811. Ben Ferguson filling in for Mark Levin. You can send me your comments as well on X. Follow me. Ben Ferguson Show. On Instagram, Ben Ferguson Podcast. And grab my podcast as well. We'll be right back.
This country was founded on freedom. Freedom from a country that forced us to buy overpriced tea, then try blockading us when we dumped their tea into the ocean. How'd that work out? Well, it's time to throw your overpriced big wireless contract overboard, too. You don't need to pay $100 a month per person just to get a free phone. Pure Talk, my cell phone company, says no to inflated prices and gimmicks. With a qualifying plan of just $45 a month, you can choose a free iPhone 14 or free Samsung Galaxy with qualifying plans. And yes, this is for a premium service. Unlimited talk, text, 25 gigs of data, and mobile hotspot at a fraction of the price of the big three. All on America's most dependable 5G network. Get your free iPhone 14 or Samsung Galaxy with qualifying plans by visiting puretalk.com/Levin today. Switching is easy. Again, that's puretalk.com/LEVIN to claim your free iPhone or Galaxy with a qualifying purchase from Pure Talk. America's wireless company, my wireless company.
All right, welcome back. It is the Mark Levin Show. Ben Ferguson filling in for the great one. It is nice to have you with us. Nearly every activist federal judge obstructing the president's agenda has a spouse or child drawing a paycheck from a Democrat-aligned NGO. That coming from Elon Musk in his interview that he did on Fox News Channel with Bret Baier. This should make every American furious.
Are you surprised at some of the legal efforts and some of the judges that have weighed in? There's about 8 or 10 now of these cases that are at least temporary holds. They're being challenged by the DOJ.
Right.
Are you surprised by that pushback?
Well, it's the D.C. Circuit is notorious for having a very far-left bias. And when you look at the people close to some of these judges, where are they working? Are they working at these NGOs? Oh, they're the ones getting this money. Does that seem like a system that lacks corruption? It sounds like corruption to me.
Sounds like corruption to me. Let's go to your phone calls. 1-877-381-3811. On, I think it's line 4, David in New York, welcome. You are on the Mark Levin Show. Ben Ferguson filling in for the great one. Hi. David, you got me? How are you?
Hi, how's it going?
Good, sir. How are you?
Look, the question I have is this, right? If any of these federal judges can just do this, what would happen if a different federal judge just did the opposite and said, you know what, we're going to allow Trump to deport people? Wouldn't that force everything to the Supreme Court immediately?
Well, it would work its way through the case. I'm not sure it would go directly. And again, I want to be clear. I'm not an attorney. I'm not going to play an attorney on TV or radio either. But what I will say is the way that this is moving through the court system, and a great example of this is what I said before the break about the appeals court clearing the way for Trump to fire leaders of these independent federal agencies. Like, Trump has an incredible team around him this time that is so much better than the team he had in 2016. And you look at this ruling Friday being a massive victory for Trump's efforts to have control over these regulatory agencies that Congress intended to operate with, quote, some degree of independence from the president. And that's what Democrats are losing their minds over. But the president is saying, I should have the ability to do this. I am the president to remove some of these people. Now, this 3-judge panel of D.C. District Court of Appeals voted 2-1 to allow Trump to remove members of the National Labor Relations Board and the Merit System Protection Board. The 2 board members in the case were appointed by President Joe Biden. Lower court judges have issued injunctions, right, because they're going into lawfare with Trump for firing the 2 board members. But this Friday's appeal court ruling lifts those injunctions for now while the litigation is going to proceed. I think a lot of this stuff is going to end up going to the Supreme Court. And I think that Donald Trump, more times than not, is going to win because some of this is just so brazen. And look, the President of the United States of America should not have to fight every single day with activist judges that are clearly there to undermine the president's agenda, which ultimately is the American voters' agenda. This is where Americans should be highly offended and upset. That we are sitting in what I describe as a fraudulent system. This reminds me, if you've never watched the movie The Big Short, do it. It's about the housing crisis and the market collapse back in 2008, and just how insane it was that the regulatory agencies were giving great. They were basically selling ratings of AAA rated bonds for fees. The whole system was fraudulent. And one of the lines in the movie is, well, at least people are going to go to jail for this. And finally, there will be some of this corruption. Out of all of the fraud and corruption that the government was, I don't even think asleep at the wheel for. I think they were purposely looking the other way because of what we're seeing now with Doge. And everybody was hooking everybody's brother up. Like all these activist judges have their family members, that are on these NGOs getting paid. And you look at that accusation, I don't think the federal government was asleep at the wheel with the housing and the subprime market and everything else. I think their friends were getting rich off the fees. And it reminds me so much of that, where the government is willing to protect the people around them if they're all getting paid. There are a lot of people that are acting just like the Biden crime family within our government. And I would tell you, go and watch that movie if you didn't do it, or read the book, The Big Short, because it explains it. There was only one person in all of that corruption that happened. And then there was a government bailout. Remember, the American taxpayers got screwed. The system was filled with so much corruption that the falling of the system, the Lehman Brothers and everybody and Countrywide getting shut down and everything else that happened during that time, it was going to be so catastrophic that what happened? The American taxpayer bailed them all out. And they bailed them out, and no one was really held accountable for it. You got a lot of people that were hurt. You got a lot of people that lost their homes. You had a lot of people that were lied to by lenders. You had regulatory agencies that had their family and friends getting hooked up with these incredible fees. And it just shows you the level of the corruption. Now, it's at every level in our government. Every level. And then when you see all of these judges that are activist judges trying to stop Doge, you got to ask yourself the question, okay, well, why? Why? Just answer that question, why? Why are you trying to stop us? Because they are activist judges. And they want to stop President Trump at all costs. Because for them, they believe that they are above the law. They don't believe the law applies to them. They believe they get to do whatever they want to do, however they want to do it, whenever they want to do it. They are a judge, and they also, by the way, believe that Donald Trump can just shut the hell up and sit down. They can't stand him. They don't respect the voters, and that's where you should be offended. You should be highly offended that they are saying you need to shut up. You need to sit down. You need to be quiet. Right? Like, that's what you need to do. You need to shut the hell up and be quiet. We know what's best, and we don't respect your vote or any election outcome. That is how corrupt the system is in D.C. I appreciate the phone call, Dave. It's good to talk to you. Let me go to line 3 to Rob in Montgomery City, Maryland. You are on the Mark Levin Show. Ben Ferguson with you. Hello.
Hey, Ben, thanks for taking the call. Yeah, the People's Republic of Montgomery County.
Love it.
Yeah, if it walks with 4 legs and has spots, there's 2 critters, right? There's a leopard of the animals on our planet, and a cheetah. And these peoples are more like cheetahs, the people that are perpetrating all this. And, Mr. Schumer, Senator Schumer, let the cat out of the bag completely a couple days ago. He was on the TV, said, we did this purposefully to get all these lawyers, give them these judgeships so they could play lawfare again. Okay. All these people do is plan on how they can stay in power on the other side of the fence. They really, it has gotten to be, and the old adage about throwing grandma over the cliff with about the Medicare, that's such BS. Most of the American people know that that's just lies.
Look, they've been using the fear-mongering line for so long. When I was working with the Bush administration back in 2004, we tried to reform Social Security reform because we knew it was a Ponzi scheme then. We knew it was not serving the American people well. We knew it was a real problem. And one of the things that was very, 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 very clear, from when we tried to reform it was every time we tried to touch it or explain it or to give it people a new way of looking at it about how bad of a deal you're getting on your ROI when you put into Social Security, the left would just say they're going to steal your money, they're going to take it away from you, you're not going to have it, they're going to ruin it, they're going to privatize it, and they're going to take it all, it's going to fail, it's going to be a Ponzi scheme, it's going to be corrupt as hell, don't trust Wall Street, don't trust, it was the same line, and it worked with old people. We saw it in the data, like it worked, it really did. It was incredibly frustrating, but let me just tell you, it worked. It worked unbelievably well. And that was sad. But they've been now saying it. I see it like every day. They've been saying it over and over again since 2004. Every time you try to fix something like, this is shady corruption. It's gonna, you guys are screwed. Da, da, da. Like it was constant. And I think now it's just lost its edge. Like it really has just kind of lost its like. You got to sit there and almost laugh. You got to sit there and just be like, all right, here we go again. Like, I don't know what other way to put it. Here we go again. Now they're going to lie to us again. They're going to say this crap again. And there's just an eye-rolling aspect of this now. And that's the part that I love.
It's theater. Yeah, it's all theater. You remember Wall Street, right, with Gecko?
Yeah.
That was a beautiful movie. But, this is the inmates guarding the asylum. And I think the American people, the majority, that's why we voted Mr. Trump in and whatnot. Hopefully, it's going to take. It took a long time to get it to where it is now, so it's going to take a while.
Well, and again, look at. This goes back to what you said. Listen to Schumer. I'm going to play the longer version. This is Chuck Schumer going after Elon Musk and Donald Trump at this press conference with the Senate Democrats and the Trump administration's changes, quote unquote, Social Security. This goes back to fear mongering. This happened this week, 2 days ago.
The acting commissioner, handpicked by Doge, said Musk's claims of fraud are false. And Musk, by the way, at one point said, let's eliminate it. They've revealed their true colors. Trump and Musk are just eroding the American dream. They're rigging the system for billionaires while stealing from the elderly, from the disabled, to cut taxes for their billionaire club. Senate Republicans, every Senate Republican should be demanding that Musk reverse the firings. If they say they believe in Social Security, then they ought to be telling Musk stop. But Senate Republicans are just silent, letting it happen. They're afraid of Trump. Now, yesterday, at the hearing in the Finance Committee, which Ron and Maria were at, we heard from Trump's pick to lead the Social Security Administration, Frank Bisignano. To confirm Mr. Bisignano as head of Social Security is hiring an arsonist to run the fire station. I've known this guy for 20 years. He's a cutter. Companies bring him in to slash benefits, companies bring him in to slash workers, and his claim to fame is cutting and shrinking. The last person we need to run the Social Security office.
I mean, the fear-mongering there. Right, the sky is falling. You can't trust them. They're evil. And yet the American people, I just think they've overplayed the hand. I think the American people don't believe him when he speaks anymore. Do you agree with me?
Oh, yeah, he's desperate. Yeah, he needs to be gone. And he came right out and said they purposefully, like I said, I think it might have been the same press conference, said that they hired all these lawyers, they were formerly lawyers, activists, which had all this background of getting NGO money through someone in the family, what you were just talking about, what Elon has been talking about. Look, these people that we have running the show right now are all patriots and heroes. They love the country. Trump didn't have to run at all. He could have said, you know what, I've had it with all this. But he knows that if this was going to continue, and a lot of other people that have any kind of parcel of common sense, knows that the game's going to be over. We're $36 trillion in debt. So anyway, God bless all of them. Thank you again for taking my call.
Hey, man, good to talk to you. I appreciate it. 1-877-381-3811. Ben Ferguson filling in. You can follow me on X, Ben Ferguson Show there. Send your comments there. I'll read them all. Also on Instagram, Ben Ferguson Podcast. And grab my podcast, The Ben Ferguson Show. And if you like a short podcast, each and every morning I do a new one called the 47 Morning Update with Ben Ferguson. It's a 10-minute show with the 3 biggest stories coming out of the White House. If you want something short and quick with big news coming out of the White House, grab that one as well. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
This country was founded on freedom. Freedom from a country that forced us to buy overpriced tea, then try blockading us when we dumped their tea into the ocean. How'd that work out? Well, it's time to throw your overpriced big wireless contract overboard, too. You don't need to pay $100 a month per person just to get a free phone. Pure Talk, my cell phone company, says no to inflated prices and gimmicks. With a qualifying plan of just $45 a month, you can choose a free iPhone 14 or a free Samsung Galaxy with qualifying plans. And yes, this is for a premium service. Unlimited talk, text, 25 gigs of data, and mobile hotspot at a fraction of the price of the big 3. All on America's most dependable 5G network. Get your free iPhone 14 or Samsung Galaxy with qualifying plans by visiting puretalk.com/Levin today. Switching is easy. Again, that's puretalk.com/LEVIN to claim your free iPhone or Galaxy with a qualifying purchase from Pure Talk. America's wireless company, my wireless company.
So if you want to know just how sick these lefties are and how deranged they are when it comes to wanting to take out Elon Musk, let me just give you this story. The Tesla takedown movement, which organized protests against Elon Musk and his role in the Trump administration, is gearing up for its biggest demonstrations yet. While protests planned around the world this weekend on its global day of action. You ready for some psychopaths? Well, if you want to know who the enemy is, they're going to show their face. USA Today is now reporting that the Tesla takedown movement, a growing backlash against Elon Musk and his involvement in the Trump administration, the Department of Government Efficiency, is urging protesters to sell their Tesla vehicles, dump their stock, trying to ruin Elon Musk, and join picket lines in front of Tesla locations worldwide. The movement's website is declared this Saturday, the 29th, as a global day of action, with dozens of protests planned across the United States, the UK, France, Germany, the Netherlands, and more. According to the Tesla Takedown website, and this is all being funded by the radical left and the billionaires of the left, okay? They opposed Musk's, quote, alleged illegal coup. That's how they describe it. And his use of the Tesla fortune to destroy our democracy. Same people that are saying they believe in democracy are the ones that are saying torch Teslas and firebomb them and set up like actual bombs, for example, incendiary devices at the one in Austin. Tesla takedown is a peaceful protest movement. That's what they say. We oppose violence, vandalism, and destruction of property. That's on the website. I think the actions that we were seeing speak differently than what you've got on your website. The planned protests come amidst a significant decline in Tesla's stock value, which has lost almost 40% since December. Falling from nearly $500 a share to around $270 a share, this drop in value coincides with an increase in vandalism targeting Tesla dealerships and vehicles across the U.S. By the way, just a personal note, I'm just not a guy that's a Tesla guy. It has nothing to do with Elon Musk. I'm just kind of like, I like gas in my engines. I don't like the stress of worrying where I'm going to like plug the thing in. I told Elon this at the White House last week. I am, for the first time in my life, genuinely looking at the reality of buying a Tesla, just to give not one but two middle fingers to these radicals on the left. Second thing, I'm now looking at actually buying Tesla stock, because if they're going to try to do this to him, then I want to stand with him. I would never have been a candidate for a Tesla until these psychopaths, these degenerates, have done what they've done. And I'm like, bring it on. You want to come after my car? Fine. You're going to jail because the cameras are going to be rolling. Sometimes we got to stand up for good people doing good things. Ben Ferguson filling in for the great one. We'll be right back.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hour 3, so good to be with you. Ben Ferguson filling in for the great one, Mark Levin. We've got a lot to chat about tonight on the show, including Maine school officials saying they will not comply with the Trump administration's agreement to bar transgender athletes. You want to know what anarchy looks like? These are the same people that say our democracy is under attack. They're the ones that refuse to comply with the laws in this country, whether it's deporting illegal immigrants or abiding by the federal laws when it comes to this issue of protecting women in the sports and the locker rooms and the bathrooms. This coming from the Associated Press. School officials in Maine said Thursday they will not comply with a proposed agreement from President Donald Trump's administration that would bar transgender athletes from participating in girls' sports. The U.S. Health and Human Services said earlier this month that the Maine Department of Education, Maine's Principals Association, and a high school are each in violation of Title IX because of the participation of transgender athletes. The federal investigation came after a public spat between Donald Trump and the Democratic Maine governor, Janet Mills, about the subject. The health department gave the institutions 10 days to comply with a voluntary agreement to settle the issue by banning the athletes. The Principals Association, which oversees high school sports in the state, and School Administrative District 51, which includes Greeley High School, where the controversy was erupting, both said they will not comply with the agreement. The federal health department cited Greeley High School in the Portland suburb of Cumberland because of a report that a transgender student won a girls' track competition, and there was obviously video of it going viral. The district said in a letter to the community on Thursday that it is not complying because it will instead continue to follow state law and the Maine Human Rights Act, quote unquote. In other words, screw you to the federal government. The district's statement also said, quote, to our students, thank you for your maturity, perseverance, and dedication to learning through these distractions. Please continue to lead the way. I'd love for them to make that statement, but just change it a little bit, saying, hey, to women, we're really sorry that we're forcing you to be in the same locker room with men showing their dinglings to you. And, hey, we're really sorry that we're allowing men to beat the crap out of you in sports. And, hey, we're really sorry that we're taking away the chance for you to actually get college scholarships and win national titles or state titles or sectional titles because we're allowing dudes who claim they're a chick to beat the crap out of you in sports. That would be a nice statement. Of course, they're not going to do that in Maine because they're woke. Now, these Marxist, Socialists, and Communists and the Maine Principals Association said in a statement, it is also, quote, bound by the law, including the Maine Human Rights Act, which our participation policy reflects. A spokesman for the Maine Department of Education referred the matter to the State Attorney General's office, which did not respond to the AP for a request for comment. Now, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services also did not respond to a request for comment. The department said in a statement earlier this month, this: we hope the Maine Department of Education, the Maine Principals Association, and the Greeley High School will work with us to come to an agreement that restores fairness in women's sports. Mills and Trump, you may remember, sparred over the subject last month during a meeting of the governors of the White House. During that meeting, Trump made it clear that he would pull federal funding from Maine if the state does not comply with his executive order barring transgendered athletes, that is, again, I don't even like to call it that. I just say it's dudes acting like chicks, from women's sports. Mills responded, "We'll see you in court." And Donald Trump said, "Great." The U.S. Education Department has since concluded that Maine violated the Title IX anti-discrimination law and could face Justice Department prosecution. Now, let me just talk about the strategy here when it comes to this one. I am all in favor of the law being followed and the DOJ doing their job when it comes to this issue of the law. Like, I'm all in favor of it. I think there are far too many liberals out there that say, I don't have to comply with the law, but if Republicans did this, like, you would be arrested. I'm not in favor of lawfare. That's probably a better way of saying it. Okay, like, I'm not. What I am in favor of is following the law. And you look at another example of this, happened a couple of days ago. You had Secretary Rawlings saying this in a cabinet meeting with Donald Trump. And here's what she said on this other issue of transgender. Listen.
Let me just add to that, and thank you. We just had a wonderful cabinet meeting, all aligned on certainly the effort to realign the government. But even at the U.S. Department of Agriculture, we've canceled a $300,000 contract educating on food justice for queer and transgender farmers in San Francisco. A similar contract we canceled in New York, again, educating transgender and queer farmers on food justice and food equality. I'm not even sure what that means, but apparently the last administration wanted to put our taxpayer dollars towards that. We canceled a $600,000 contract out of Louisiana that was studying the menstrual cycles of transgender men, a $600,000 contract. We canceled another contract out of a university in the middle of the country that focused on getting more diversity, equity, and inclusion into our pest management industry. Again, these are nonsensical. It makes zero sense to use taxpayer dollars to fund these. I know these are just a few examples of the hundreds and hundreds that we have found.
Well, I got to tell you, like, canceling a contract in New York education and educating transgender and queer farmers on food justice and food equality, if you explain this to the American people the way that Secretary Rawlings just did, the majority of Americans are going to say, yeah, we stand with you on this. We get it. We understand it. We stand with you on it. We support you on it. And we're not going to be bullied anymore to believe that we have to believe that a man can be a woman. We absolutely have to protect women. I still don't understand. I really don't. I don't understand where are all the, quote, feminists. Where are they? How are there not more feminists out there that are protecting women from men destroying their dreams? I mean this. It's incredible. Donald Trump, by the way, was asked a question. It was supposed to be one of those, quote, I got you questions in the White House. And he was taking questions yet again in the Oval Office. And there was a reporter that was there that asked the president a question about women and men, right? The transgender issue. What is a woman? You ready for this? Here's the president in his own words earlier.
Since Democrats seem to struggle answering this question, I wanted to ask you, what is a woman and why is it important that we understand the difference between men and women?
Well, it's sort of easy to answer for me because a woman is somebody that can have a baby under certain circumstances. She has a quality. A woman is a person who's much smarter than a man, I've always found. A woman is a person that doesn't give a man even a chance of success. And a woman's a person that in many cases has been treated very badly, because I think that what happens with this crazy issue of men being able to play in women's sports is just ridiculous and very unfair to women and very demeaning to women. And that's got to be about a 94%. I read today it was a 94% issue. And I watched the other day, Congressman, Democrat congressman, fighting for the fact that men should be allowed to compete essentially in women's sports. And I say, I hope they keep that going because they'll never win another election. That's a big deal. But women are basically incredible people, do so much for our country, and we love our women, and we're going to take care of our women. Yeah.
How is it, if you're a feminist and you hear that from Donald Trump, how on earth could you not be in favor of that? Like, what is there for you to be angry about? How could you be angry? I listen to that and I'm like, the feminists should be like, okay, I can get behind that. I can totally get behind that. And the president's saying it's easy. He's standing up for women. And I never thought I'd see a day where the Democratic Party would be the one saying that, no, women, we're going to screw you over. Like the feminist movement, you would have thought they would have been the first ones to go, men, get the hell out of our locker rooms, get the hell out of our sports. You would have thought that that's where this would have gone. But for some reason, like, no. We're going to have a radical, crazy world where women are going to be screwed by men acting like women. And their lives are going to be changed, and their success is going to be changed in sports. I've said this before. I don't know if I've said it filling in for Mark or not, but Martina Navratilova, I played tennis in college, so that's like I know a lot about, obviously, that sport. And Martina Navratilova was a pioneer. She was one of the first, I think, maybe the first, like, woman to really come out and be like, I'm a lesbian. And it certainly was going to affect her career, and she knew it. Because when she came out, like, it was a long time ago. And it was going to cost her money. It was going to cost her endorsements, and she was going to be ridiculed. Like, she knew what was going to happen, and it was not going to be good. All right? Like it was going to be bad. And there was a lot of people that, like, but she did it. And she's come out, and now the LGBTQ world has turned on her. Because she stood up and said that it's totally insane to allow men to act like women and compete with women. By the way, if you want to have a transgendered league, I don't care. Okay, that's one of the things. My actually giving a crap now level is like really low. If you want to have a transgendered NBA, cool. I'm not going to watch it. Maybe other people want to. Fine. You want to have a transgendered tennis tour? Sure. You want to have a transgendered golf tour? Sure. You want to have a transgendered any tour? I don't care. Like, do it. Like, please do it. Like, knock yourself out. I really don't give a crap. Like, I don't care. Okay? I don't. But don't change women's sports to take away from women. And that is the point that she made. Like, it is unfair to have men in women's sports, whether it's swimming. We've seen this with Riley Gaines. Whether it's volleyball, we've seen this with people whose lives have been, I mean, Donald Trump had one of them at the, his joint address to Congress recently. His State of the Union, where there was a woman that he talked about whose life was altered forever after she had an actual brain injury from a man acting like a dude, hitting her in the face in a violent way with the speed, okay, with the speed of a man spiking a ball. Not able to play after that. This is what happens. Women are going to also get hurt. It's not just it's not just what happens with men taking away scholarships. Women are going to get hurt too. 1-877-381-3811. 1-877-381-3811. Ben Ferguson filling in for the great one, Mark Levin. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
All right, welcome back. It is Ben Ferguson filling in for the great one, Mark Levin. It is really nice to have you with us, and I want to get to some of your phone calls. We're talking about the transgender issue. Democrats are saying we're not going to comply. Maine school officials won't comply with the Trump administration's agreement to bar transgender athletes. Maine's governor, Janet Mills, speaking to the press this week, saying we're not budging at all. 1-877-381-3811. Let me get to your phone calls now. We'll go to Danny. Welcome. You are on the Mark Levin Show. Ben Ferguson filling in for the great one. How are you, sir?
Hey, Ben, thank you for taking my call. I've got one thing to say for the transgender debacle that they have going on with women's sports. If you're not good enough to play with the boys, get better. But if that's not going to be the case, why do we even have women's sports to begin with? And you mentioned something, and I want to drop a few points for you to expand upon later because I know you're probably up against the wall. The Social Security issue, in 2 years I'll be able to claim it, along with God knows how many other hundreds of millions of baby boomers. If it's not there, there is going to be some serious violence. I am not a proponent of it. I'm just saying, this isn't going to turn out well. With Boasberg and him going against Trump, Speaker Johnson came out and said, listen, first of all, we're not a democracy. We're a constitutional republic. And he came right out and said, listen, we can dissolve the Supreme Court if we want to. It only takes the executive and the legislative branch to do so because there's only one Supreme Court. The rest are inferior. I don't know where this guy Boasberg gets off telling the president that he needs to comply with his wishes and so on and so forth. I mean, you always want to respect the judge, but in this case, I don't think so.
Look, I want to fight all of these things like to the fullest, not out of arrogance, not even out of like the issue of principle. It's because I think we're going to win.
Yeah, exactly.
But the thing is, it has to happen for me,
for us to win.
Yeah, but I mean, that like it's that for me. It's just that's the issue. Like it's actually that simple. And I think this administration is well prepared for this. This administration is not going to back down. This administration understands what lawfare looks like. They're in the middle of it yet again here, and they're not going to concede. They're not going to concede because they won an election and the American people have spoken. And if you want to know how little the left respects you as a voter, look at what they're doing to try to destroy your vote. That's what people need to understand. Ben Ferguson filling in for Mark Levin. Don't forget, follow me on X, Ben Ferguson Show. We'll be right back. Welcome back. It is nice to have you with us. Ben Ferguson filling in for the great one, and he'll be back with you on Monday. I want to get to some of the big news that's going on right now. Elon Musk coming out saying this as well in his interview with Bret Baier, and I want to play this for you. Take a listen.
Forms could be shut down.
Finally, what's the biggest thing for you that keeps you up at night?
Well, there's a lot of things, I suppose, that I worry about, but and some of these things will seem esoteric to people. The birth rate is very low in almost every country. And unless that changes, civilization will disappear. America had the lowest birth rate, I believe, ever. That was last year. Places like Korea, the birth rate is 1/3 replacement rate. So that means in 3 generations, Korea will be 3 or 4% of its current size. And nothing seems to be turning that around. Humanity is dying. And people, it's just not something we evolved to react to. And I worry generally about the strength of America. America is the central column that holds up all of Western civilization. So if you like, if we've got the the temple of Western civilization. America is the central column. If that column fails, it's all over. You can't run off to New Zealand or some other place. It's over. So either we strengthen that column and make sure America is strong and will be strong for a long time, or that roof's coming down.
It's so interesting to hear Elon answer that question. And I think it goes back to, like, why is he doing this? I think he loves this country. And I think it's pretty clear he loves this country. So the question that every American should be asking is, why are Democrats so upset that he's finding fraud? It was something they talked about in the Five. It's something I mentioned earlier. They were talking about this interview, and they said the reason why they think Democrats are upset is because they believe the government is theirs. It's their bank to push their ideology on everyone.
Relations and what they've been able to dig up.
Well, first I thought all these Doge boys were going to be like wearing hoodies and have like one hitters hanging from their mouth. And they're like really successful innovators that have left their successful companies to take a sabbatical to save the country. And all the Democrats can do is heckle. They're like bleacher creatures. They're just yelling stuff from the stand. They have a hot dog in one hand, a Miller Lite here, and they're like, "You're too slow." I mean, meanwhile, these people need like wheelchairs to get out of the stadium. They don't have any ideas, the Democrats. What's their idea to cut waste, fraud, and abuse? What's their idea to cut spending? This is like when your wife spills wine and then she yells at you because the way you're cleaning it up is wrong. Babe, you spilled the wine. I'll clean it up the way I want to clean it up. Why aren't Democrats upset about fraud? They're just upset about the way we're finding the fraud. Like, we're injecting swallows with Coke to see if it makes them horny. Yes, Coke makes everybody horny. Why can't we just hold hands and agree that some of this stuff is ridiculous? The Democrats don't run their own business like this. What Democrat business hires people and never fires people? What Democrat business just gets bilked out of millions of dollars and never stops it? What Democrat business gives every employee 2 credit cards? None. Democrats never run their own businesses that way, but for some reason tolerate what's going on in the federal government like this.
By the way, I think Jesse's absolutely right. Why are Democrats upset about fraud? Why aren't they upset about fraud? Well, it's and none of them run their business this way. So why? Here's the last thing he says, which is the core point here.
I would want FEMA to be faster. I would want the Pentagon not to get built. I would want Medicare and Social Security saved. We can agree on that. But for some reason, Democrats are fighting tooth and nail against this. It's almost like they think the government's theirs. And when any Republican takes power, he's leasing the White House. Like, if he wants to make any changes, like, you have to call the super. Like, you can't do anything. You can't paint it. You can't irrigate the lawn. Anything needs to be done. You have to have the Democrats do it for them. That's not how we run this country.
That's not how we run this country. It is, by the way, how Democrats run this country. That's the whole problem. This is exactly how they want to run the government, because they believe that it is theirs. That's what it is. They believe that it is theirs. Let's go to your phone calls. 1-877-381-3811. Catalina, line 1, welcome in New York State. You're on the Mark Levin Show. Ben Ferguson with you. Hi.
Yes. Hello. Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine. Go ahead.
Okay, dear. Listen, as far as the Zelensky situation earlier on, are we crazy? This is part of history. There are documents. There are things that are absolutely for the, historic record. So the idea that he does not know where the money is absolutely a lie. These are not verbal agreements. There are absolutely written things. And so what I have to say is...
Let me catch people up to speed on what you're referencing. Earlier in the show, we were talking about how Zelensky says he doesn't know where 50% of the money went. And this is after he's now come out today saying that the money you gave us in the past is not ever going to be looked at as a loan by us. Maybe some of the future stuff, but none of the past stuff. And I'm like, go ahead, be an idiot. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. If you want anything from this president, you better go back and make it clear that, hey, a loan? Yeah, we're probably going to do that. And look at what you gave us in the past as a loan. And that just makes good sense. He's like, no, it's not. We're not going to take it as a loan. So you need to get over it. Fine. Like, you want to act that way, then, play stupid games, win stupid prizes.
This is pathetic because it's part of history. We have documents for our country and other countries going back that you can get out of the archives, of course, to see all of these agreements. So this is total fraud. This is a game. And he has gotten in there because any idiot, that arises to a particular, office, there's somebody tapping them on the shoulder to tell them how this works. And it's a total fraud. And I'm frightened and I'm saddened because of the mass graves. A whole country is being buried for greed. It's greed.
It's a great way of putting it. It is absolutely for greed. It's all about power and control. And I go back to what Jesse said there on Fox. It's Democrats believe the government is theirs. They believe it is their piggy bank to indoctrinate the rest of not only America, but really the world and their radical ideological viewpoints.
My friend, the most important thing to understand is the demise of civilizations is when they do not conscientiously recognize that there absolutely is something called evil. And I'm saddened. I cannot tell you how much I feel. And I have had many revelations early on when I have seen...
Let's go back to what I mentioned earlier, and I played this early in the show, and I'm going to play it again. I appreciate your phone call. But when Chuck Schumer came out, and you see what Elon Musk is finding, you see what Donald Trump is doing, he's giving the American people their power and their freedom back. And so what does Chuck Schumer do? He goes, the oldest play in the book, right? Okay, we'll say that Elon Musk is evil and eroding the American dream, and Trump too.
Trump and Musk are just eroding the American dream. They're rigging the system for billionaires while stealing from the elderly, from the disabled, to cut taxes for their billionaire club.
Show me proof of any of that. And by the way, I would totally stand with you. Like, show me the proof. You're up there. You called the press conference. You're the one that said you wanted to have this conversation. Okay, then. Show me the proof. Show me the proof. Gary, line 7. Thanks for waiting. You're on the Mark Levin Show. Ben Ferguson with you. Hi. Gary, you there? All right, I guess we lost Gary. 1-877-381-3811, 1-877-381-3811. Don't forget, you can also send me your comments on X. Follow me there, at Ben Ferguson Show. On Instagram, Ben Ferguson Podcast. And if you would, I'd love to keep up with you. I do a podcast each and every day. It's called the Ben Ferguson Podcast. Grab it. It's free wherever you get your podcasts. And if you want a short form podcast, I do one called the 47 Morning Update. It's the 3 biggest stories coming out of the White House. You can grab it. It's about 10 minutes long. Grab the 47 Morning Update as well. Ben Ferguson filling in for the great one. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Welcome back. It is the Mark Levin Show. Ben Ferguson filling in for the great one, Mark Levin, and he'll be back with you on Monday. Donald Trump announcing a 25% tariff, by the way, on cars not made in the U.S. There's going to be a lot of fodder over this. So I thought I would let you hear from the president in the Oval Office.
So this is the beginning of Liberation Day in America. We're going to take back just some of the money that has been taken from us by people sitting behind this desk or another desk that's not quite as nice, but they have their choice of 7, as you know. And we're going to charge countries for doing business in our country and taking our jobs, taking our wealth, taking a lot of things that they've been taking over the years. They've taken so much out of our country, friend and foe, and frankly, friend has been oftentimes much worse than foe. And this is very modest. And what we're going to be doing is a 25% tariff on all cars that are not made in the United States. If they're made in the United States, there's absolutely no tariff. We start off with a 2.5% base, which is what we were at, and we go to 25%. And basically, as you know, and as you've been saying, not reporting as accurately as it should be reported because it's a massive story. Business is coming back to the United States so that they don't have to pay tariffs. And I think also because of November 5th, the election, they're very happy.
Now, this is complicated, obviously, because there's people like, well, hold on a second. If foreign cars are going to go up in price, then I may not be happy about the foreign car. This is also just simply put about leverage. And Donald Trump has made it clear that he's going to use tariffs for leverage. He loves tariffs. Anytime you're around him, he talks about tariffs. He likes them. He thinks they are a tool to be used to get things back in check when they've gotten out of whack with other countries. He's using it with China. He's using it with Canada. By the way, we heard earlier today he had a great call with a new leader in Canada. There's a very good chance that they're going to be able to work a deal out here for securing that northern border and also for the president to be able to not have such a trade deficit with Canada. Same thing with Mexico. He wants concessions. And he understands that, yeah, things can go out of whack here a little bit, but can other countries hold on as long as we can? I think the president really does know what he's doing right here. And I think the president is understanding that he's got to he has to do it differently this time than he did it last time. Donald Trump said, even back in 2024, talking about tariffs, and he's not really stopped from this viewpoint. He said this in an interview, I think it was on Fox Business in Bedminster, New Jersey, at his golf club. This about the idea of tariffs with China.
Tariffs as a national security tool?
Absolutely.
How?
So tariffs have two things. Number one, I think they're great. You take in money. If China's charging us 100%, then we don't charge them anything. You know what happens? They say, we don't want your cars from America. We want you to build your factory in China or other countries. And it's not just China. I would be willing to bet that I would have I had a great relationship with President Xi. And in all fairness, when COVID came in and it came from Wuhan, and I said it right from the first time you interviewed me, it came from the Wuhan labs. You know, they were saying it came from France, Italy, Germany. It came from all over the place. They said it came from us.
No, we knew. Yeah, Wuhan, you're right.
We always said Wuhan. It came from caves, bat caves 2,000 miles away. But when that came, it was, it was just a ship too far.
Are you considering putting tariffs on other countries?
I mean, he's been consistent on this. He ran on it. He ran on this. He ran on the idea that we're going to use this for national security issues, for making it clear that we're not going to be messed around with, we're not going to be screwed with. And then when he's doing it, there are people that can't get their head around, they can't believe it. Why would you not believe him when he said this is what he was going to do? Why? He's doing exactly what he said he was going to do. He's doing exactly what he promised the American voters he was going to do. He said that in August of last year. If people didn't want this, they could have voted against it. But instead they voted in favor of it. right? Like, they voted in favor of it. I'll give you another example of why people voted for him. This was something else that came out with Doge in this interview with Bret Baier.
You've got overstaffing. A good example of overstaffing would be the IRS has got 1,400 people who are dedicated to provisioning laptops and cell phones. So if you join the IRS, you get a laptop and a cell phone, you're provisioned. So if each of those IRS officers or employees provisioned 2 employees per day, you could provision the entire IRS in a little more than a month. So 12 times a year, you can re-provision.
Why would you have 1,400 people whose only job it is to give out a laptop and a phone?
Right. The whole IRS could be handled once a month. So that doesn't make any sense.
Again, it doesn't make any sense. There are 1,400 IRS employees assigned to deliver laptops and cell phones to IRS agents. What? Like, what the hell are we doing? It's always an honor to fill in for Mark. He'll be back with you Monday. I'd love to keep up with you. Please follow me on X, Ben Ferguson Show. Grab my podcast, the Ben Ferguson Podcast. And if you want to know the big 3 stories coming out of the White House every morning, take you about 10 minutes. Download the 47 morning update with me as well, wherever you get your podcasts. God bless America. Mark's back with you on Monday.